Would you kindly, Book of Cain, 17, 4 The desk lamp hisses as Ryan signs manifestos in blood-red ink. Booker's boots crunch seashells soaked in kerosene. Sophia presses her palm to Persephone's cracked infinite sigil. The metal bleeds steam, singing her flesh. A child's laughter echoes from the baptism tanks. Violence is the purity of purpose, she thinks. Ryan's typewriter clacks, Booker's chains rattle. Trembla's sigil, chains a bleeds crunch birth canal rattle, steam glass and seashells regret, soaked in kerosene. What if Eleanor Lamb's big sisterhood wasn't collectivism but objectivism's own shadow? She was Sophia's daughter, a prototype, a weapon forged in the same fire she later called sin. Lamb didn't crave unity, she craved rigor, a society where the strong proved their strength by bearing the weak's burdens. No handouts, no compromises. Only the purest form of self-made virtue enforced with chains. Rapture's fall wasn't splicers or mobs, it was the price of a faith that demanded perfection. A girl who became a goddess to atone, a system that punished excellence as a crime. How does a world built on self-reliance drown in its own strictest rules? The answer lies in the mirror, and it's not collectivism. A world that worshipped the self became a cage of its own making. Eleanor Lamb did not inherit Sophia's faith in the many, she carved heresy from its opposite. Before the big sisterhood there was Subject Delta, a child she loved, a weapon she remade, a god she never let breathe. Ryan's immigrant hands, rough with Cossack winter and New York hunger, built Rapture to master chaos. But chaos answered. His son's body became the price of order. Booker's Pinkerton blood was no cleaner. He'd broken unions with bullets, hauled radicals to jail, learned that mercy drowns in ledger books. When he chose to erase his daughter, he thought he could outrun the arithmetic of guilt. He was wrong. Eleanor's childhood was a theater of false choices. Sophia preached unity, but Eleanor heard a requiem for the weak. She rejected the chorus not to embrace the many, but to punish herself for loving one. The big sisterhood was not collectivism. It was a penance, an army of self-made mothers, each a monument to the child she couldn't save. Legacies are not gentle things, they are ledgers. Ryan's resilience became control, Booker's discipline became erasure, and Eleanor turned love into a ledger of debt. Rapture did not fall to splicers. It collapsed under the weight of a single, unyielding question: what if the self is not a god but a ghost? Andrew Ryan's Rapture burned with the fever of self-made gods. Plasmids glittered. Atom traded hands like gold. By 1953, the city hummed a machine of ambition, each soul greasing its gears. But what thrives on self-interest cannot tolerate self-doubt. The cracks split first in the salt. Small merchants watched as tycoons hoarded atom. Families dissolved under the weight of unspoken contracts. Children whispered of big sisters in the shadows. Eleanor Lamb did not rise to defy objectivism. She rose to complete it. Where Ryan worshipped the individual, she worshipped the pure individual, unspoiled by need, unchained by guilt. Her sisters were not enforcers. They were surgeons, amputating weakness, purging debt. Offering protection as a final act of self-reliance. The war began not with splicers, but with choice. Ryan's loyalists called her a zealot. They missed the symmetry. Eleanor's family was no collective. It was objectivism's shadow, sharp, inverted, lethal. She did not ask men to sacrifice for others. She asked them to sacrifice themselves. To become ghosts, yes, but ghosts with purpose. The final transaction. By 1957, Rapture's spires choked on their own perfection. The utopia had not failed because it was too free. It failed because it was too pure, and purity, left unchecked, becomes a kind of hunger. The hunger Eleanor named Big Sisterhood was not a mob, it was a monolith, a single, screaming will to erase the self. Her manifesto Persephone's psychological weapons did not preach communal bonds, it burned them. Rand's objectivism valued self-interest, Eleanor's demanded self-annihilation, she called it purity. Others called it a funeral, each sister was a tomb. Their love was not collective, it was a scalpel, carving away desire, identity, autonomy. The manifesto's pages drip with a rage not at capitalism, but at its specter, the idea that a person might deserve to exist without serving a higher self. Eleanor did not reject self-interest, she weaponized it, twisting it into a chain. The more you sacrificed, the more worthy you became, a hierarchy of suffering. This was not collectivism. Collectivism asks you to share your fire. Eleanor asked you to burn it. Sophia's faith required belief in a god. Eleanor's required belief in your own extinction. The rapture of Eleanor's design was not a city. It was a mirror cracked, screaming, reflecting a philosophy so pure it could not abide the impurity of life. What does a world look like when the self is a disease, when every breath is a confession? Eleanor's answer was a symphony of razors. Her manifesto did not predict the fall of Rapture. It was the fall, a single, perfect drop of poison. The choice was never between freedom and control. It was between self and oblivion, and Eleanor Lamb, that twisted prophet, chose oblivion, not as a crowd, as a creed. Lamb's creed, solipsism, howled. She carved objectivism into stone, then shattered it to wear the shards as a crown. Rapture drowned not by mob, but by splicers. Jensen's scalpel, the splicers thirst the same hand that clawed upward. Her sisterhood was no collective. It was 1,000 solitary deaths, each a hymn to the self. The lighthouse's beam swept sand-stung air, its light brittle as old bone. Salt-trotted ropes coiled on the deck, and the sea's groan harmonized with the whine of rusting gears. Eleanor watched Subject Delta's eyes, twin voids in a face too white, as the girl's fingers curled into the cold iron railing. Asterisk, this is the price, asterisk, she thought, not of unity, but of asterisk purity, asterisk. In 1968, Sophia had shaped Delta like clay molding will into weapon. Eleanor, in her mirror, sought to unmake the self entirely. The girl's final breath smelled of copper and ozone, her body collapsing not from rage but surrender, as if the soul could starve itself into transcendence. No collective, no hive, just 1,000 fractured mirrors, each reflecting a solitary god. The lighthouse towered, its windows smudged with soot, every brick a confession. What utopia requires self-destruction as right. Eleanor's own hands trembled, her nails bruised from grasping at nothing. She did not weep, the sea had already swallowed her. The brine clung to Eleanor's skin, cold and unyielding. She stood at the lab's edge, where the hum of machinery drowned out the ocean's dirge. Subject Delta's voice still echoed in her skull, asterisk, you promised Wedby family, asterisk, a ghost of a pact shed shattered. Now her family was a doctrine of self-annihilation, each sister a monument to Einstein's final theorem, asterisk, to live, you must burn the self you once held sacred. Asterisk, in the archives, Shed left Delta a gift, a vial of Adam, sealed with a note that read, asterisk, your future, unchained, asterisk, head never take it. Not after Shed conditioned him to fear freedom, not after Shed made him her weapon. The lab's fluorescent lights flickered, casting jagged shadows where sisters drilled Adam into their veins, their screams music to Eleanor's hollowed heart. She watched one collapse, her body crystallizing a statue of self-made ruin. All curled in Eleanor's throat, asterisk, this is purity, asterisk, she told herself, asterisk, this is the price, asterisk, once Shed taught Delta to swim. His small hands gripping her fingers, trust unbroken. Now, he drowned in the very tide Shed promised to guide. The sea had swallowed her, she would drown the world. In the control room, she calibrated the gene cannon, its metallic reek of ozone sharp in her nostrils. The screen blazed with Rapture's grid, each note a soul to purge. Her finger hovered. A memory surged, Delta's eyes, wide with love, before Shed shown him the truth that love is a chain, that gods are made of ash. The cannon roared. The city shuddered, Eleanor's laughter rose, thin and bright as shattered glass. Asterisk, let them see the cost of weakness. Asterisk, let them burn, let her be the altar. The last sister fell at dawn. Eleanor knelt beside her, the girl's ice-rhymed lips whispering, asterisk, thank you, asterisk, a lie, a prayer. The air tasted of copper and salt. Eleanor's own reflection stared back, no sister, no savior, just a theorem made flesh. A requiem for the self Shed murdered. The lighthouse stands, not as a beacon, but a shroud. Eleanor's theorem, etched in rust, sustains a prison where self becomes warden. The big sisterhood did not worship the many, it did to the self cleansed, absolute, and hungry. Objectivism inverted, not the self above others, but the self as others. A math of martyrdom, the Ludes twins whisper through shattered dimensions. Their experiments, the unseen scaffolding of this ruin, thread Eleanor's echoes into an endless loop. Each iteration sharpens her hunger, each collapse feeds the theorem. The lighthouse does not decay, it accumulates, a ledger of failed purgations. What does a goddess learn when her altar is a cycle? The same lesson Sophia's equations rejected. No dimension can contain a soul that worships its own reflection. Yet the light persists, cold, calculated, a warning dressed as a beacon. Eleanor's sisters are not her followers, they are her arithmetic. Every Adele, every Elizabeth, every broken key proof that even utopias rot from the center. The self made divine is a locked room, and the key a shadow of the warden. The lighthouse did not burn for want of order. It burned for the weight of a single truth. The self, unyielding, is its own executioner. Eleanor Lamb carved her objectivism into bone, not gold. Where Ayn Rand saw the tower, Lamb built the scaffold. Her sisters were not followers, they were witnesses. Bound to watch the purity of self-reliance curdle into self-annihilation. Fontaine drowned in his own oil, Comstock choked on his sky. Lamb's mistake was not in wanting to rule, her crime was wanting to atone. The lighthouse was her ledger, every act of protection a tally. Every sacrifice a proof. She wore the crown of thorns, not the crown of achievement. Her utopia was a locked room, and she held the key in her teeth. What does a philosophy become when its God is the punisher, not the provider? The big sisterhood was not collectivism, it was objectivism's ghost howling in the dark. Rand's heroes traded soliloquies for Lamb's screams. Where others chased power, she chased penance. Her rulers were self-flagellators in gilded robes. The lighthouse, that final citadel, became the tomb where her ideology was both corpse and shroud. No splicers, no riots. Just a woman, a doctrine, and the slow, sacred collapse of her own making. Ideas do not fall, they are folded, crushed, buried. Lamb's mirror was never broken. It was a funhouse glass, twisting the reflection until the viewer became the wound. The key, you see, was never meant to open anything. It was a paperweight. A monument to the weight of closure. The key's weight curled into Eleanor's palm like a serpent's promise. She carved her doctrine from Ayn Rand's bones, sharpened each precept into a blade. Rational self-interest became a masochist's hymn. Big sisterhood wasn't a hive. It was a singleton's purgatory. To survive Rapture's rot, she demanded the self annihilate itself. The only way to survive is to become the monster. Her diary pages rust with the ironies of a philosopher who mistook asceticism for virtue. She starved her followers' desires, fed them a liturgy of sacrifice, until the line between martyr and martyrizer dissolved. The monster she mirrored was not the splicer or the tyrant, it was the self, gnawing its own heart to feed the flock. Viewer, you think closure lies in keys. Eleanor's final theorem was a lock. To transcend humanity, you must first become its executioner. Her voice curls in the dark, a whisper fossilized in glass become the monster. The big sisterhood's altar wasn't collectivism. It was objectivism drowned in its own poison. A requiem where the only rational act was self-erasure. The only way to survive is to become the wound. The Ludes twins did not just fracture time, they weaponized it. What if Eleanor's big sisterhood was not collectivism, but a perverse objectivism, where sacrifice became survival's price? A philosophy where individualism consumed itself. The Ludes experiments amplified this rot, threading reality with consequences. How do you break a world?